The roar of the crowd at Arthur Ashe Stadium is one thing. The roar of a legend's endorsement is something else entirely. And when ESPN analyst Joe Fernandez finally broke her silence on Alex Eala, her words left fans across the globe in tears. Speaking during an ESPN media conference call ahead of the U.S. Open, the three-time Grand Slam singles finalist and two-time Grand Slam doubles champion didn't just praise Eala's game. She described a phenomenon that has transformed the sport itself. "It's just gotten bigger and bigger everywhere she goes," Fernandez said, her voice carrying the weight of someone who has witnessed generations of tennis greatness. The fans that come to watch her, not just play but practice, is off the charts. Every point is loud. Every point she wins, it feels like she's won more than a point. The words struck a chord with Filipino fans worldwide. They had experienced this firsthand, the electric atmosphere, the deafening chants, the sea of red, white, and blue flags that transformed every tournament into a homecoming celebration. But hearing it from a legend validated what they already knew. Alex Eala was no longer just a rising star. She was a phenomenon. Fernandez, who has called Eala's matches at Wimbledon, the DC Open, and the Canadian Open, drew a comparison that captured the scale of the Filipinas' impact. Watching even on TV when she won in DC, when she played in Canada, it's almost like she's playing a Billie Jean King Cup match when she's out there. Every point she wins, it feels like she's won more than a point. Those words became a rallying cry for Filipino fans who had watched Eala turn the North American hardcourt swing into a celebration of Filipino pride. At the Washington Open, the crowd was so heavily tilted toward Eala that it appeared world number 3 Jessica Pegula would have rather been anywhere else. The following week, the Canadian Open leaned into the Eala show by opening a concession stand to serve chicken adobo and lumpia, a gesture that became a symbol of how deeply she had transformed the sport. Fernandez also backed up her compatriot Patrick McEnroe's advice to U.S. Open organizers. The Ustia better make sure they put her on big courts. In New York, I think the crowd is going to be wild for her. With nearly 50,000 Filipinos living in Queens, mere minutes from the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, McEnroe warned that putting Eala on a small court would be a logistical nightmare. "It's a remarkable opportunity," Fernandez added. "Another opportunity, a big star to highlight. By the way, her game's really good. She backs it up. She's improved tremendously, I think, in the last 12 months when we saw her break through." The emotional tribute from Joe Fernandez wasn't just a recognition of Eala's talent. It was a celebration of what she represents. A nation finding its voice, a diaspora finding its hero, and a sport being transformed by a 21-year-old from Manila. The emotional tribute from Joe Fernandez wasn't just about the crowds or the atmosphere. It was about what she had witnessed on the court, a young player who was improving at a pace that few could have predicted. She backs it up. "She's improved tremendously, I think, in the last 12 months when we saw her break through," Fernandez said during the ESPN media conference call. "She's getting better and better." The numbers back up her assessment. In March, Eala was ranked number 32 in the world. By August, she had climbed to a career-high no. 18, collecting 2,281 ranking points. She had become the highest-ranked Southeast Asian woman in WTA history, surpassing Indonesia's Yayuk Basuki and Thailand's Tamarine Tanasagarn, both of whom reached a best ranking of number 19. Her breakthrough season has been defined by victories over some of the biggest names in tennis. She stunned defending champion Iga Swiatek at Wimbledon, a match that drew 998,000 views on YouTube, dwarfing the 122,000 views for Serena Williams' comeback match against Maya Joint. She defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the Washington final, where the crowd was so tilted in her favor that the Buffalo-born Pegula would have rather been just about anywhere else. Fernandez saw it all firsthand. She called Eala's matches at Wimbledon, the DC Open, and the Canadian Open. She witnessed the transformation from a promising talent into a player who could fill stadiums and beat the best in the world. "It's exciting for the game in general," Fernandez added. The former world number 4, a three-time Grand Slam singles finalist and two-time Grand Slam doubles champion, had watched Eala's development with a critical eye. And her verdict was clear. Eala wasn't just a flash in the pan. She was a player on a trajectory that could see her challenge for the biggest titles in tennis. Her game's really good. She backs it up, Fernandez repeated, her words carrying the weight of someone who has seen generations of talent come and go. The message was clear. Alex Eala wasn't just a phenomenon off the court. She was a player who was getting better and better, and that was the most exciting part of all. The electric atmosphere that surrounds Alex Eala is something the tennis world has never seen before. And when Joe Fernandez described the experience of watching a Filipina sensation play, her words captured a phenomenon that has transformed the sport itself. Every point is loud. Every point she wins, it feels like she's won more than a point, Fernandez told ESPN during the pre-US Open media conference call. The description resonated with anyone who had witnessed the Eala phenomenon firsthand. At the Washington Open, the crowd was so heavily tilted that by the third set, it appeared that Buffalo-born Jessica Pegula would have rather been just about anywhere else. The following week, the Canadian Open leaned into the Eala show by opening a concession stand to serve chicken adobo and lumpia, a gesture that became a symbol of how deeply she had transformed the sport. It's just gotten bigger and bigger everywhere she goes, Fernandez added. The numbers back up her assessment. When Eala knocked defending champion Iga Swiatek out of Wimbledon last month, the full match replay was viewed 998,000 times on YouTube. For comparison, the replay of Serena Williams' comeback match against Maya Joint had just 122,000 views. At tournament after tournament, her press conferences and match highlights draw massive streaming numbers, dwarfing those of players who are more famous worldwide. The phenomenon has been building for months. At the Australian Open, a scheduling error that placed Eala on a small outside court created a logjam that Melbourne Park had never seen. In Toronto, tournament director Carl Hale admitted, "We've never seen anything like that in Toronto before. Every match she played, it sold out." In Cincinnati, thousands of Filipino fans waited over an hour for the gates to open so they could take their seats. Fernandez's observation that every point she wins, it feels like she's won more than a point, captured the intensity of the Eala effect. It's not just about tennis. It's about a nation finding its voice, a diaspora finding its hero, and a sport being transformed by a 21-year-old from Manila who has turned every match into a celebration. The warning was unmistakable, and it came from two voices that the tennis world knows well. Patrick McEnroe, the former world number 3 and 1989 French Open doubles champion, didn't mince words. "The Yuste better make sure they put her on big courts," he told ESPN. "In New York, I think the crowd is going to be wild for her. It's going to be a great story. Better make sure they don't put her on one of those side courts early in the tournament." The concern was not without basis. At the Australian Open in January, Eala's first-round match against Alicia Parks was scheduled on Court 6, a small outside court with a capacity of only around 1,500 spectators. The result was chaos. Thousands of Filipino fans descended on Melbourne Park, lines stretched for hundreds of yards, and security was overwhelmed. Even Hall of Famers Lindsay Davenport and Martina Navratilova had criticized the decision, with Davenport calling Eala probably the most famous female from the Philippines, and Navratilova urging tournaments to keep in mind where the players are from. McEnroe had no intention of letting history repeat itself at the US Open. His warning was backed by a demographic reality. New York City is home to a massive Filipino community. Approximately 50,000 Filipinos live in Queens, mere minutes away from the Yuste Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. So many Filipinos live in the Woodside area of Queens that it has been dubbed Little Manila. Putting Eala on a small court would be a logistical nightmare. The US Open had already received a preview of what was coming. Eala's mixed doubles match at Louis Armstrong Stadium drew a massive crowd, proving her drawing power on the tournament's second biggest show court. And after the chaos at the Australian Open, where even tournament officials were caught off guard, The USTA had been put on notice. "It's a remarkable opportunity," Fernandez added, echoing McEnroe's sentiment. "Another opportunity, a big star to highlight." The message to the US Open was clear: ignore the Eala effect at your own risk. And with the tennis world watching, the tournament's response would reveal whether it had learned the lesson of Melbourne. The tears in the stands at Louis Armstrong Stadium had barely dried. But Mary Jo Fernandez's message was never about a single loss. It was about a movement that had already won. "It's just gotten bigger and bigger everywhere she goes," Fernandez had said during the ESPN media conference call. "The fans that come to watch her, not just play but practice, is off the charts. Every point is loud. Every point she wins, it feels like she's won more than a point." Those words captured the essence of the Eala phenomenon. It wasn't about the scoreline. It was about what she had already achieved. A nation of 114 million people, newly engaged in tennis, a diaspora that had transformed every tournament into a celebration of pride, and a sport that had been forever changed by her rise. At the end of the day, I am also aware that it's a crazy experience, so I'm just trying to take it all in, Eala had said when asked how she deals with her fame. What makes Fernandez's message so powerful is that it goes beyond tennis. Eala is not just a player, she is a symbol. A reminder that a young woman from Manila can carry the hopes of millions and never forget where she came from. At Wimbledon, her visor bore the Filipino message, "Kapag lumago, hindi na hihinto." Once it grows, it cannot be stopped. Mary Jo Fernandez had seen it all. A 3-time Grand Slam singles finalist, a 2-time Grand Slam doubles champion, a woman who had competed against the greatest players in history. She had watched generations of talent come and go. And when she spoke about Eala, her words carried the weight of someone who understood what true greatness looks like. "She's getting better and better," Fernandez said. "It's exciting for the game in general." Fernandez's message to Eala and her fans was clear. This is only the beginning. The 21-year-old Filipina has already achieved more than any player from her country in history. She has won a WTA title. She has beaten the world number 3. She has reached the 4th round of Wimbledon. She has climbed to a career-high number 18 in the world rankings. The US Open is just the next chapter. The mixed doubles loss was a footnote in a story that is still being written. And with the singles main draw beginning on August 30, Eala has the opportunity to prove that her breakthrough season is no fluke. What Fernandez's message truly means is this: Alex Eala is more than a tennis player. She is a phenomenon that has transformed the sport, united a diaspora, and inspired a nation. And the tears in the stands at Louis Armstrong Stadium were not tears of defeat. They were tears of pride. The Eala effect is here to stay. And for the thousands of Filipino fans who have found their hero, that is more than enough. Mary Jo Fernandez broke her silence on Alex Eala with a message that left fans emotional. The ESPN analyst described Eala's impact as off the charts, noting that every point she wins, it feels like she's won more than a point. Fernandez praised Eala's rapid improvement, saying she's getting better and better. The former world no. 4 also warned the US Open to put Eala on big courts given the massive Filipino diaspora in New York. Fernandez's message was clear: Alex Eala is more than a player, she's a movement. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We bring you the biggest stories in tennis, drama, and emotion every single week. Don't miss what happens next.